Hi and howdy, folks. Good to see everybody again. Come on inside. Welcome to school. Have yourself a seat on the benches. Make yourselves as comfortable as possible. Quite some time ago, it was episode 10 of this series, which is, good grief, about 35 episodes ago. I had introduced folks to the concept of Turons, a subset of humans not known for their intellectual prowess. Some of you may not have needed any introduction because if you've been working in the history field, living history, that sort of thing, volunteer, paid interpreter, you've encountered a Turon. If you want to see the explanation for all of this, it's in episode 10. But I'll give you a little explanation right now. A Turon is someone who has to be told at a national park, don't get too close to the buffalo. They don't like that. Others they can't find, and I'm serious when I say this, they can't find the United States on a map of the world. Now, continuing on with Turons, I have a story for you that may appear at first hearing to be utterly ridiculous, unbelievable. Don't worry, Turons are capable of anything. And this story I'm about to relate to you about a Turon is probably potentially the most dangerous story I have relating that subspecies of humans. There was this apple festival. This has been quite a number of years ago, and several of us interpreters were out doing our thing at this apple festival. It was an invitational. I had my setup there, my medical setup, and others, friends of mine, were setting up theirs too. One of us in the party, Chuck Davis, unfortunately he's passed already, he brought with him his toy, his cannon, a full-scale Civil War cannon. It was a reproduction. But it acted and fired and functioned exactly as the originals. And he had set this up in a clearing at the top of a hill. And I should mention at this point, this area we were in was heavily forested in the foothills. We were on top of a hill that had been cleared. Chuck would demonstrate the care and feeding of a Civil War cannon. The number one person does this, the number two person on the crew does that, and then he attached a lanyard to a friction primer. Friction primer is a small brass tube, and there's a small hook on it. You attach the lanyard with its hook to the hook on the primer, and at the word fire, you have the lanyard to yank. The friction primer will be activated. Inside the primer is fulminate of mercury. If you've ever played around with cap guns as a kid, if you've ever taken a roll of caps, a whole roll, put it on a concrete block or something and whacked it with a hammer, that's the same stuff. Well, I was not working the gun. I was working crowd control. Because some people, I can tell you stories about them, want to get really up and close and personal so they can see the fire that comes out of the muzzle of the cannon. And my job, keep them the heck away from the cannon. I was not the only one doing crowd control. But after a couple of rounds of fire, return the gun to battery, swab, load, all the various commands, there was this couple in front of me, early 20s, thereabouts, but it doesn't matter. They were young. They were adults. They're old enough to know better. And the male said, "Excuse me, I have a question." All right, yes sir, what can I do for you? What are you shooting at? Well, here's a good way to tell a story Just give him an answer that is so outrageous, so blatantly false, so incredibly nonsensical. He's not going to believe it, but we'll all have a good laugh. This has happened before, and apparently I've learned nothing about ludicrous responses to questions because here's what I told him. Well, we're shooting at another gun. They're down in the hollow down there, and you can't see them because it's so wooded. We only have one cannonball, about 4.6 inches across. And they're hard to make, they're very expensive to make, and we only have one of them. So we fire at them, we know where they are. They pick it up, they put it in a gun, they fire it back at us. They know where we are, we're in this open clearing. So of course, we can find the ball, load it, and send it back to them. Of course, nobody's going to believe that, are they? Here's what happened. After telling that cockamamie story and expecting a good laugh, the male said, "Ooh, it's interesting. Come on, sweetheart, we got to get a little closer. They're using live ammunition." That hurt. I had to explain to them, no, you can't approach the gun. No, we're not using live ammunition. They're all blanks. Can't get hurt unless you do something stupid. No, I did not say that to them. But consider this. They bought that story of mine, hook, line, and sinker. And now they're convinced we're using live ammunition. And they want to get closer. Darwin's Law, I don't know what to say about things like that. They were adults. They're old enough to know better. They're old enough to know where there's live ammo, don't get any closer. But that's not what happened. I stopped them in time, and the rest of the day went off as normal. No other incidents of that sort happened at that time, at that place. There have been other incidents, but the one I just related to you, nice people, probably the worst one ever. Potentially dangerous if they were to break through the crowd control line and go up and stick their faces, because I've seen this. I have seen this, I kid you not, up to the muzzle, about that far from the muzzle of the gun, because they want to see the fire. At any rate, so much for that. I hope you'll forgive me. I'm feeling a little puny right now. The weather has changed, and for whatever reason, I've got a cold. It's not severe, and I can pretty well take care of it by myself, although a little libation of an adult sort might help. And don't tell anybody that, because I'm a teetotaler. At any rate, it's been a pleasure having you here once again. Good to see everybody. Hope you're doing as well as you want to be and you're not under the weather. There will be further incidents and non-incidents. But in the meantime, until our paths cross again, I have the honor to remain your most humble and obedient servant, Dave Dix, coming to you from a long time ago. Thanks very much. We'll see you here next time.